What's up guys, Defi Alpha here with some passive high yield farming strategies using Terra's Mirror Protocol v2. So Mirror is a DeFi protocol that enables the creation of synthetic assets. So these synthetics are pegged to real world assets and we can use them not only for exposure to the underlying, but also to take advantage of some pretty impressive yields offered by the protocol. Today we're going to be using a strategy optimized for getting the highest yield with limited exposure to volatility. Alright, so on this page you can see that in addition to having your long farms, which you can participate in by purchasing or borrowing an M asset and pairing it with an equal amount of UST, you can also enter a short farm, which is new in V2. And this is what we're really going to be focusing on in today's video. So here you see you've got plenty of options, but these APY values here change over time, so you can't just click on the highest one. A great resource you can use to choose the most efficient synth is mirrortracker.info, made by Caleb Beery. This is an incredibly useful tool. It aggregates the historical return for each asset over the past 30 days. This main page you see here are historical returns if you combine long and short farming, but you can also filter by a long APR and short APR. So based on this data, we're going to choose Galaxy Digital to short. All right, let's go ahead and choose short farm. And you'll see a few options here. Let's start with collateral asset. I'm going to take this opportunity here to go over how the shorting mechanism works so that the rest moving forward makes sense for those who are unfamiliar with the process. All right, we're going to start with Chad, and Chad here wants to short $500 worth of M Galaxy. In order to do that, we're going to borrow $500 worth of shares. We will then have Mirror immediately sell those shares back to the open market for $500, which we get to keep. Then at some point in the future, we will close this position by returning the 29 borrowed shares, ideally for a cheaper price than what we borrowed them for. To ensure you can't just take the money and run, Mirror requires you to post collateral in order to initiate the borrowing process. The collateral suggested by the protocol is 200% of the amount you wish to borrow, or 2x. So if we want to borrow $500, we will post collateral in the amount of $1,000. Once this is done, Mirror is going to automatically mint $500 worth of Galaxy, which is about 29 shares. It'll immediately sell those shares back to the open market for around $500, which is yours to keep after a 15-day locking period. In the meantime, you will automatically be entered into the short farm, earning that short farm yield until you decide to close your position. After 15 days, you receive the locked $500 from the sold shares, and this will be kind of the state of affairs until you decide to close your position. When you're ready to do so, remember you need to repay those 29 shares you borrowed. And you'll do this by purchasing 29 shares from the open market using the unlocked $500 if it's available, or out of pocket if it's not. You'll realize a gain if the price of Galaxy is lower than when you borrowed it, and incur a loss if it's higher. This is why it's called shorting. Either way, once you repay the 29 shares, your $1,000 in collateral is unlocked and returned to you, free to use again. At the end of the trade, your P&L will be based on the $500 you received from the short sale, the amount of yield you received over the length of the position, minus the cost of the 29 shares. All right, now that you've got a general idea of how the process works, let's go ahead and open a live position on Mirror. You'll see the first step here is to provide that initial collateral we talked about. And if we poke around in this tab, you'll see that you don't actually have to use cash as collateral. You can actually put up other assets that you own, which is a very powerful leveraging tool. For this example, we're going to be taking advantage of using AUST as collateral. Now, AUST is a product of Anchor Protocol, another yield platform on Terra. If we hop over there, you'll see that we are able to earn 20% APY on deposited cash. And this is where we're going to start our yield stack. I'm going to start by depositing $1,500 into Anchor. When that goes through, you notice that in my wallet, I've been given AUST, which is basically a receipt representing my deposited funds into the protocol. Now this AUST number here is lower than my deposit because it's actually an interest-bearing asset and will gain value over time. Now, the cool thing is we can actually use this receipt as collateral to short an M asset on Mirror. In other words, my 1.5K can sit here in Anchor generating 20% while simultaneously allowing me to borrow another yield-bearing asset. And again, we want to short $500 worth, so I'll put $1,000 out of my $1,500 up for collateral. I'll explain later why I have this $500 buffer. Next up, we've got collateral ratio. If your ratio goes below the minimum, which is 150% of the value of the borrowed amount, you're going to expose yourself to liquidation risk. Now, the way this slider might start moving over here towards the red is if Galaxy starts skyrocketing while the position is open. This is going to increase the dollar amount you have borrowed and will skew the ratio. So let's go ahead and keep it at the suggested save value of 200%. Down here, we will see our returned UST, which again is going to be locked up for 15 days. Now, you may notice a discrepancy in the price here. I'm getting $538 in return versus the $500 that I borrowed. And this is because when you borrow from Mirror, you borrow the asset at the Oracle price, and you sell it to the open market at the Galaxy price. This price discrepancy is called the premium. In this case, the premium actually benefits us, giving us a little bit of extra cash. All right, let's click farm. Now, just a very quick side note here that trips people up. If you head over to Anchor after you've posted your collateral, you notice that the amount deposited is less than the amount initially deposited. And don't worry, your money is still in Anchor gaining interest. This number just represents the amount of money that is available to withdraw. Because you posted the rest of that cash as collateral, you can't touch it until the position is closed. Now, you'll see on my dashboard here that we are farming M Galaxy for 53%. Over here, we can see our locked UST amount and the date when it'll be unlocked. So put that in the calendar. And if we head over to the collateral section, you'll see a button here that says manage. In here, we can adjust the amount of collateral posted after the fact. Now, this is really useful because if you see that collateral slider start slipping to orange or red, you can jump in this tab and increase the amount of collateral to restore your health factor. This is exactly the reason why I initially deposited extra money than was necessary to borrow the shares, in case I need to boost the collateral at some point. All right, quick recap. First, you're going to deposit UST into Anchor, which will yield you 20%. In return, you will get a UST, which you will post as collateral to borrow an M asset. Then you'll short that M asset and receive locked UST from that short sale, plus the yield from the short farm, and just stay here for as long as you want. As it is, this is kind of a high risk, high reward strategy. You're kind of at the mercy of the underlying stock. If it goes down, you can profit by buying back the shares lower. If the stock goes up, however, you may lose money because you'll have to buy back those shares at a higher price. We can reduce exposure to this price volatility by establishing a delta neutral position. And to do this, we're going to long the same stock that we just shorted. Let's jump on over to the trade tab and immediately purchase the amount of stock that we owe back to Mirror. All right, so now we have the stocks needed to reimburse Mirror. So from here on out, the price fluctuations in the asset doesn't really concern us. We could just sit back and collect the yield. Now we can actually take this a step further and earn interest on this position by entering a long farm. We'll do this by providing equal amounts UST into the liquidity pool. Back on our homepage, you can now see that we are long farming M Galaxy at the current rate of 45.59%. Again, this is variable. All right, just a quick review. After entering the short farm, we then purchased the M asset in the amount borrowed. We've limited our downside risk, but also capped our upside potential. It also requires additional capital as we opted to purchase the shares immediately rather than waiting to use our locked up UST, which you can also do. Next, we provided equal amounts UST and entered a long farm, which puts our capital to work but also requires even more capital up front. Just to wrap everything up here, let's go over our capital allocation and final yield. For the full delta neutral strategy, we initially allocated $2,084.48. 1,000 of this went into Anchor. I did actually put 1,500 in, but that is entirely a personal decision. So for the purpose of this recap, I'm just going to include the absolutely necessary costs. All right, 1,000 in Anchor, which is earning us 20% yield. We then purchased 29 shares of M Galaxy for $543.11. paired that with UST in the amount of $541.71 in order to enter the long farm, which is yielding us an average of 39.67% of the total cost. We're also earning an average of 66.33% on the borrowed amount of $538.10. And then 15 days later, we receive our unlocked proceeds from the short sale, which will reduce our overall total capital requirement to $1546.38. Quickly looking at our 1-year ROI here, we're earning 200 from Anchor, 430.29 from the long farm, and 356.92 from the short farm. Brings us to a grand total of 987.21 per year. Now, keep in mind here, the mirror rewards you receive from the long farm and short farm can be compounded into governance for an additional 20% yield at the time of this recording anyway. I personally decided to convert these mirror rewards into Luna tokens because I'm bullish long term. The other option is just converting it to USC and pocketing that. You can choose whatever system works best for you. All right, to find our final percentage return, we're gonna go ahead and divide that profit by the capital allocated, multiply by 100, and we get 63.84% ROI. All right, that was a lot to take in about 12 minutes, so feel free to hit me up with any questions you have in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next one.